Great. And we're up. Hannah Adams, nice to talk to you again.
Good to talk with you too. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So what's the latest with you?
Man, I'm working on my MBA right now at the University of Alabama, so that's been pretty fun being in master's classes. And then right now I'm also busy preparing for Miss Alabama, Miss Shelby County this year. And so that looks like dancing every day, doing community service events, social media. And so those are my two big things right now that are keeping me busy.
Miss Alabama. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. I've been involved in the program, the Miss America organization for 8 years, completely transformed my life. And this will be my 5th year competing for Miss Alabama. So it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and I saw that you were doing work on Capitol Hill and all that recently for childhood cancer research.
Yeah, so every September during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, as you know, we have a big group of childhood cancer advocates that go up to Washington, D.C. and lobby on Capitol Hill for different childhood cancer bills. And I've been, over 100 times to meet with different offices up there. And we've seen better research funding and treatment options for these kids. But it's really cool to see young kids go and see that their voices are making a difference. And I'm hoping to work in politics one day. And I think that's really what helped me get my start, was seeing the impact that we can make up there.
Okay, so you've been how long have you been going?
I've been going since 2016, so 9
Okay.
years. Next year will be my
Wow.
10th year since I started going up to DC to advocate.
That's incredible. That's amazing. I'm sure that's fun every time. DC is such a cool city.
Oh, it's so cool. I interned up there for a couple of summers in the U.S. House of Representatives, and I really owe those experiences to going to advocate. But it was definitely interesting seeing how those offices function, how they set up meetings, what legislation they're working on, and kind of almost like how the news portrays politics one way, but then actually working in it, you see, okay, these people don't actually hate each other. They just have to fight when they're voting, but they're all friends at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people come together for something like childhood cancer research, and nobody wants less research or more kids to get cancer.
Yeah. I mean, it's one issue everyone can agree on, is what I
Yeah,
always say.
yeah, that's a good issue that everybody can agree on. So, uh, what is your history, and why are you so passionate about fundraising for childhood cancer?
Yeah, so I mean, similar to you, I'm a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed when I was 5.5 years old with stage 3 nephroblastoma, which meant that a softball-sized cancerous tumor was enveloping my left kidney. And my family moved from Florida to Texas about 9 months before I was diagnosed for a job promotion that my dad received that he should not have necessarily gotten. Like, he did his job interview with laryngitis, didn't even have a voice, but somehow got the job promotion, and we ended up in Houston. And I was getting ready to go to my ballet class, and my mom noticed that there was a bulge in the side of my stomach, and she thought, okay, what's going on here? This is so unlike my child. Like, this is just really weird. I had a high fever. And so we went to my pediatrician the next day. And at first, they thought it was a cyst that could easily be removed. They're like, oh, it's nothing to worry about. But probably like you've experienced, the mom senses go off, and they're like, wait, we need to keep digging on this. And that's when they discovered it was cancer. And so within a week of that diagnosis, I was getting chemotherapy, figuring out a treatment plan. They said I was going to have surgery, and life completely flipped upside down. My days of swimming with my little sister and going to ballet class turned into going to hospital visits and losing my hair and being surrounded by all these doctors using really big medical terms that I still don't fully understand to this day. And I think so often, like in those circumstances, we ask, like, why is this having to happen to me? Why am I having to go through this? Why is my family having to go through this? Um, and I had a few months of chemotherapy, and then they said that I was going to have a 13-hour surgery, and they said that the cancer had spread to part of my spleen, part of my stomach, part of my diaphragm, the entire kidney, and the tumor. So my parents signed off for me to lose all these vital organs, and they knew that that would change how I would live the rest of my life. And when they started the surgery, the surgeons about halfway through came out to speak to my parents, and they said the scans were wrong. We only need to remove a nickel-sized part of her diaphragm, the kidney, and tumor, nothing else. And so I always like to say that I think the scans were right, and God just did a miracle before that surgery came and provided healing in those areas, because I know that, that would have changed how I would get to dance or exercise or just live life. And so that was a really big blessing that we saw during my cancer treatment experience. And then after the surgery, had to go through radiation and more chemo. So treatment lasted about 9 months. And I've been cancer free for over 15 years now. And so that's truly, after being declared cancer free, I made a promise to myself that I would help other children who were fighting cancer. And so at 8 years old, started sharing my story and fundraising on the side of the road through lemonade stands. And that's led me to where I am today.
Wow, I can't believe that they would have was it a CAT scan, MRI?
I think it was a CAT scan. I had a lot of CAT scans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild that they would have a CAT scan using that as the basis for going into the surgery, only to go into the surgery and it all just be gone.
It was crazy. I mean, it was so unexplainable. Yeah, I mean, I only remember being told that. Obviously, like, I was asleep during surgery, but I often think about like what my parents were thinking in that moment, and just, I mean, you never would expect that would be able to happen.
Have you talked to the doctors since then about that and gotten their reactions on what that could have been or what would explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked. So those doctors, they were out in MD Anderson, and now I go for follow-up at Children's of Alabama. But whenever I tell a medical professional that, they just kind of look at me with wide eyes and they're like, wait, what? And I've never gotten a scientific explanation on what might have happened, so I'm not totally sure.
MD Anderson's phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
Great hospital.
they were the best. And actually, the chief oncologist at MD Anderson that specialized in the cancer that I had, that treated me, he ended up being my grandparents' best friend's son. That's a long title for him. So we got really, really lucky that we were out there.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's one of the best medical centers in like the entire country. People come from not only America, but when I was staying there, we had kids from like Asia, I mean, Europe, the Middle East, all these people coming in for top quality, top-notch treatment. So that's great to hear though. That's an amazing story.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember walking into like the pediatric cancer ward, and you might have seen this too, where they have that big map where people mark where they're from. And it was so crazy to see, I mean, all the different countries that people traveled in for. And that was another thing that we realized. We're like, oh, God put us here in Houston, Texas for a reason. So I could be so close to MD Anderson and receive that care, because I would be diagnosed 9 months later.
I think the first time I realized how big it was Thanksgiving, and they were serving chicken, and there's a Middle Eastern family eating right next to us. So we're eating the chicken, the turkey, all of the traditional Thanksgiving meals. The Middle Eastern little boy who's going through cancer is trying chicken, or maybe it was turkey for the first time. And he like looks at it weird and started to pick at it. And his dad says, "Don't worry, son, it tastes just like lamb." And I was like, "Oh, that's like just tastes just like chicken. That's, we're not all that different." Thought that was funny.
And they were probably like, "What's Thanksgiving?"
Yeah, no, what is this? Why are they bringing us turkeys? Why do y'all only eat turkey once a year? stuffing and dressing and all this random, crazy, heavy, fattening stuff.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, very. So you're Art, so do you incorporate with Miss America and Miss Alabama, you incorporate fundraising alongside that?
Yeah, so that's something I always the Miss America program, one of their pillars is service. And so every single young woman chooses a service initiative that is important to them, that has touched their lives. But what I think is really special about me being a childhood cancer advocate in that capacity is that I was doing this nonprofit and advocacy work long before I ever knew that I would enter a pageant. And so it started out at 8 years old, fundraising for the American Cancer Society, doing fundraising work for them. And that led me to work with Hyundai Hope On Wheels, which is Hyundai's childhood cancer nonprofit. And that was one of the most transformative experiences of my life that definitely prepared me to be involved in the Miss America program. But I got to travel the country and meet so many amazing families and children and doctors. And it was the first time where I'd interacted with so many other childhood cancer fighters and survivors, and seeing how we can relate to each other, like shared life experiences. I think that it's so easy to feel alone as a childhood cancer survivor. And so getting to build those connections was really special. And then moving in to continue to work with H.U.G.S and their childhood cancer sector, and starting my own nonprofit. And so all that happened before I became involved 8 years ago, but it definitely has amplified my efforts. And I think it's so special to walk into a hospital wearing a crown and sash and getting to put the crown on another child's head and making them believe, they can achieve any dream set on their heart. Like their diagnosis doesn't define them. And so that has been one of my favorite parts of it.
So what inspired you to get into the Miss America and pageantry?
So we were living in Florida at the time, and my dad saw an ad in the newspaper for the Clay County Fair pageant. And I never thought that I would do a pageant. To me, at that point, I thought that they were very superficial. It was like toddlers in tiaras, little girls getting like spray tans and fake teeth, and not really me. But as I looked into it more, I was like, wait, I could earn scholarship money for college. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I need to find a way to pay for college. And so I entered that first pageant, didn't know how it was going to go, somehow won. And then a couple months later, I found myself at the Miss Florida teen competition, placing first runner up in a $100 evening gown and a $12 interview dress, which is kind of unheard of. Like, girls spend thousands of dollars on wardrobe and these patches. Is kind of crazy to think about. And so that was like the initial experience where I thought, okay, all these different things that I'm already doing, like speaking, dancing, doing community service, working out, it's a culmination of all those different things. And I can get scholarship money for college. This sounds like the best of both worlds. And so that's how I got into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is very cool. You sort of found something that was already you. You're basically
Yeah.
being professional Hannah Adams. You're not, having to force yourself to change to be who you want to be. That's
Yeah. That's what I always say is like the girls who are the most authentic versions of themselves are the ones who succeed the most, because people want authenticity and an
Mhm.
understanding of who you are.
So what all goes into winning a competition like that? Like for Alabama, as you prepare, what are you practicing, working on, and all that goes into it?
It's a lot of work. So I see it as like a full year process. It sounds crazy, but I made like a 12-month prep plan that I'm following. That's probably a little overkill, but there's so many different things that I think you have to grow in. One, like talent is a really big part of it. So I have to perform a 90-second dance. And so I have to stay in ballet class at like 22 years old, which isn't always the easiest, like not as nimble as I was at 15, but I stay doing that, doing practice interviews, doing community service work. Social media is a big part of it. But ultimately, to me, the most important part is already doing the job of Miss Alabama. I'm a big believer, people say dress for the job that you want. I'm a big believer and do what the job entails before you ever even get it, because then, you can show that you're capable of doing it. And so in my mindset this year, I'm already living as if this will be my job next year. So to me, that's, taking care of my body. That's planning out events that I can go to. And then also really having a deep understanding of who I am and what I'm passionate about and what vision I have for this role. And I believe the job of Miss Alabama is to be a friend to everyone in this state. Like, you never know who you're going to be. You might be the only Miss Alabama that someone ever meets. And so whether it's in rural Phoenix City, Alabama, and I'm visiting a classroom of kindergartners, I'm going to be their friend. I'm going to hear their little stories that they share. We're going to dance in the classroom. But then a couple hours later, I might be in Montgomery advocating for childhood cancer and have to also be able to connect with those legislators and be super professional. And so I feel like the biggest part of it is just knowing how to connect and relate to people and be their friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how you manifest everything too. I'm a big
Yeah,
proponent of that.
I know. I think it's a really big part of it. Like, you have you have to fully believe that you're capable of doing it. And it's not in like a prideful way. It's not saying I'm going to be this. It's saying I know that I'm prepared to do this. And I have so much belief that, God already knows what the outcome is going to be. So I can't even worry about that. And that was something I made a lot of peace with this year. I was first runner up. And so got to stand hand in hand with my friend Emma as she was crowned Miss Alabama. And that was really special because I was the first person to hug her and congratulate her. And I knew that God had a specific reason why she needed to be Miss Alabama this year and serve our state this year. And so there's always a reason, and there's always, the best timing possible for it. And so I pray that the timing works out next year.
So I'm curious to know if some of the things you may have learned from cancer or even post-cancer, maybe
Mhm.
reflecting on cancer, have you been able to apply those to, like, it seems like you have great work ethic, intentionality, manifesting all these great things. So I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah, I think that something that cancer really teaches you is that time is precious, that you need to take advantage of every single day because every single day is a gift. And something that I always strive to do is be super positive. Sometimes to a fault, I will admit, I feel like sometimes my friends are like, okay, Hannah, come back down to planet Earth. Like, it's okay to feel sad or disappointed if something doesn't work out. But, um, even navigating cancer, it's okay, this terrible thing happened to me. In the moment, I didn't see why, but now it all makes sense that I get to help other kids, that I get to use my story in ways that I never could have imagined. And I think that's the same thing in a pageant or really anything in life, that if something unexpected happens, you have to understand there's going to be a reason why, even if you don't see it in the moment. And I think just waking up with gratitude every single day and looking at the positive of life. I'm a really big believer that mindset is everything. Like, during cancer treatment, I had to choose whether I was going to be in flight mode or fight mode. I chose to go into fight mode. And it's the same thing with life.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's an important thing, that if you just wake up in the morning and say something positive to yourself, or be thankful that you have another opportunity at this thing that we call life, it can
Yeah,
make a massive difference.
100%. And I think another really big thing that cancer taught me was resilience. Like, in treatment, if I was kicked out of a clinical study, having flexibility and adaptability in that, in a sense. And it's the same thing with this, that with pageants and also what I experienced in college was a lot of failure. People could look at it and say, well, Hannah, you've lost Miss Alabama 4 times. You've failed 4 times. Why are you going back? I've been asked that. And I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as an opportunity to grow, and that I walk away with so much more than a title, but I walk away with personal growth, having a deeper understanding of this job, of who I am. And even at things at Alabama. I mean, my freshman year, I interviewed for so many different like college ambassadorship positions. I thought I was going to be SGA president. You know, as a freshman, you're like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. That's what my mindset was. And I was humbled very quickly. And those things didn't work out, but it led me to so many other opportunities that I wouldn't have had those things. Had I succeeded in those things.
Yeah, failure is always the best teacher.
Oh
There's
yeah.
no one that can teach better than failure, unfortunately, sometimes. But yeah, no, I definitely love that. And being humbled, I've also been humbled many times too, and it's a good learning experience to be humbled.
I agree. And I think a heart of humility is really important. Yes, like being humbled, like when you think something, but like just approaching everything with a heart of humility of thinking like, I don't deserve any of this. Like, I don't deserve to have this experience or have this job more than any other person. Like every single person, if they're working hard towards it, every single person's deserving of it.
Yeah, I love that. I've never thought about it that way. I've
Yeah.
always sort of like felt like I have a chip on my shoulder, which I guess is sort of like how guys guys overall think. You know, got
True.
massive chip on their shoulder, like, oh, I'm in a competition to win this, the competitor in me. But I think that's more of a wholesome, probably better way to get the outlook you want.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I had to really reflect on. I mean, Miss Alabama's taught me so many different things, but I feel like mindset and perspective on life, that's what I've learned the most from it. Because you're competing with all of these incredible young women who have worked equally hard, that all of them would be amazing Miss Alabamas. And at the end of the day, it's 5 people's opinions of you that you have no control over. And so rather than placing like all this pressure on yourself, being like, well, I'm the one that's supposed to win this year. It's like you don't know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
And so just embrace the experience and do your best. And especially like with girls, I think, and guys too, but girls especially, it's so easy to compare yourself to each other. And that was something that I struggled with for a long time. I still do on social media. You know, it's a highlight reel. You see I raised this amount of money, I went to this event, all these accomplishments that everyone's doing, and it's great to be able to celebrate those things, but you have to understand, okay, it's apples to oranges. One of my really good friends, Elena, used this analogy that I absolutely love, and it's that every single person is a light. Like, one person might be a green light, another person may be a yellow light. Every single person is a light in this world. In something like a pageant, sometimes certain lights shine brighter than other lights. That doesn't take away from this person being a light, but it's this person's time to be an extra light. And so that helped me like reframe things and thinking through, okay, it's just about timing.
Exactly. And you're one thing that I've certainly struggled with and thought about a lot and tried to overcome is the fact that your mind is the worst predictor of the future humanly possible. If you let your mind try to predict the future and you truly believe and buy into, now it's good to have dreams, right? But also sometimes like we can daydream, and that's where we might get in trouble, where we dream so much that we don't actually do anything, or we dream ourselves into thinking that we want this dream now,
Mm-hmm.
where it's definitely okay to dream.
Yeah.
However, these dreams take a long time to come to fruition, and especially now
Yeah.
with phones and with technology and all these great things, we can get like I can order a sandwich off Amazon and get it sent to my door in like 5 minutes, right? So we've got this instant gratification. And part of the humbling is okay, look, you can dream, you can have these dreams, but they're going to take a while to get to.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's, you know, what you do with that waiting season that makes all the difference. That's the way that I feel right now. I feel like I'm in a waiting season in a lot of different parts of my life with like job, or Miss Alabama or just all these different things. And I was sitting here literally this week thinking, okay, I'm so bored. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm in this waiting season. I feel like so many different parts of my life are on pause. And I'm someone probably similar to you that likes to go, 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 that has a stacked schedule. I have my routine. If I'm not doing something, that equals unproductivity. And yes, like having action behind your dreams is so important, but I think it's also okay to embrace the moments where you're just called to be still. And that's when you sometimes learn the most. That's when new ideas come to you, when there might be more creativity like going through your veins, and you realize things that you never would have realized. Hey, you're not just taking time to like reflect on your why behind it and embracing that waiting.
Exactly. The meditation and the time
Mhm.
to just empty out your brain and think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you're using your brain as a weapon instead of having it bring anxiety or anything else into your life.
I agree. And it's so easy, like, you have to be able to take those thoughts captive. I'm a really big believer in when you're starting to think a lie about yourself, whether it's, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, to replace that with truth, because I'm a firm believer in, like, what's in your heart is what comes to fruition. And so if you're believing all these different lies, that are being told to you, then that is what you are going to represent in life. And so having those positive affirmations, knowing who you are, that's how you combat that.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. I think that's the self-talk is just absolutely huge. And especially like I mean, I always felt that way. I think you talked about it earlier when
Yeah.
you said I had a choice when I was battling cancer to be a fighter or fight or flight. And a lot of that comes from self-talk,
Yeah.
right? So
100%.
you could choose to fight it and tell yourself, "Hey, we're going to get through this. We're going to take it day by day and I'm going to come out on top." Or that fear can overcome you. It's cancer. Oh my gosh, this is huge. This is really scary. I don't know if I don't want to do this, all that. And your body, there are actually studies on like positivity and self-talk and disease. So
Whoa.
like your body will respond. They also have those in sports. So they did a study on tennis players where I forgot who did this study when I say they, but basically they got a group of tennis players, I think it was around 250, something like that. And one group, both groups were about the same skill level. One group had negative self-talk after they made a mistake.
Mhm.
So they missed a serve or missed a volley, maybe it went out, and their self-talk was in the negative light. Whereas the other group, their self-talk was in the positive light when they made mistakes. Their self-talk was they make a mistake and they'd say, "Man, I just love tennis so much. I mean, isn't it just beautiful just be out here and have fun?" And turned out the people who had self-talk, pretty much the same skill level,
Mhm.
performed better because they were right here mentally. And the mental part of your game, your life, the competitions that
Mhm.
you're in with Miss Alabama goes the distance.
Yeah, 100%. I always say like 90% of something like Miss Alabama is mental, like believing you're capable of doing it, and then affirming like who you are outside of winning a pageant. Because if we're finding our identity in something like a tennis competition or a pageant outcome or a job or a position, then those things can be taken away in an instant. And so your identity will crumble if that's what it's rooted in.
Definitely. So you're preparing for Miss Alabama
Mhm.
and everything. And by the way, best of luck. And I know you're going to kill
Thank
it.
you.
I know you don't need much luck because you've got such a great
Oh,
routine and
thanks.
everything. But to people out there who are listening, who
Yeah.
have dreams like Miss America or whatever their dream is, what
Yeah.
would your encouragement and philosophy and wisdom be for them?
Ooh, I like this question. I think one of the first things is knowing your why behind doing something, because that is your motivation, even on the hard days, even on the days where things don't go your way. And so, my why behind wanting to be Miss Alabama is to serve people, to represent this state of Alabama that I love so dearly, to pour into an organization that has forever changed my life, and to help it continue succeed, and then also to be a voice for every child who's battled cancer. And so knowing your why is so important, but then also prepare really hard, so then when you get there, you can just press play and enjoy it, and you can trust your preparation, knowing that you have done every single thing possible in order to succeed. And now it's just a matter of people's opinions, or how the job interview goes, things like that. And so I think you can find so much comfort knowing that you have done the work and now you just get to experience it. But I think the other big part of it is really just enjoying the process and soaking it all up. For a long time, when I got to Miss Alabama, I would get so in my head, and I wasn't able to have fun with the other girls. And it wasn't as if I was like not like, I did make friends and I enjoyed my time with them, but this year I really focused on how can I just love the person in front of me and get to know them. And so when you're operating from a place of like focus on other people and how can you show up for them and love them, rather than thinking what can I receive from this, I feel like it really shifts your perspective when you're in an environment like a pageant, or a competition. And so those have been some big takeaways that I've had.
Those are all phenomenal takeaways. I love I think it was the second one. That one stood out to me.
Yeah.
If you make your preparation harder than the actual end, whether it's a game or a pageant or an environment where you earn what you're working towards,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes you'll be successful because you'll get there and you'll say, "Wow, my preparation was way harder than this."
Yeah, I agree with that. No, yesterday I was practicing my talent. My ballet teacher was like, "Okay, Hannah, you have 3 more minutes of our hour. So what can you do in 3 minutes?" And I just looked at her. I knew what she meant. I was like, "I can run it 2 more times." And she said, "Yes." So I ran my dance like 3 times in a row, which it is like a very difficult dance. And so it was, by the end of it, like the ending of the third time of doing it, it was not incredible. But she was like, "We're gonna make it harder so you can do it one time in 90 seconds, and it's so easy." And so like you train hard. One of my favorite quotes that my friend says, her name's Abby Stockard, she was Miss America. She says, "You train hard and fight easy." And so that's what made me think of what you just said.
That is an amazing quote. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna tell that to my 10U lacrosse team. So when they
Do
complain
it.
about hard practices, you say, "Well, this is what we do so we can win."
Yeah, exactly. And like the other thing that I think about too is that so many people wish they were doing what you are doing. Like so many people wish that they made the lacrosse team or got to go to Miss Alabama, or like be in this really hard statistics class and be getting their MBA, all these different things. And so it's going back to that gratitude of being thankful where you're placed, embracing it, even in the really difficult seasons of it.
That is the truth. So what's next for you, and when is the Miss Alabama competition?
The Miss Alabama is May 31st through June 6th. So I have about 8 months from now.
Okay.
It's October. So we've got a lot of time to just keep preparing for it. But I'm working on my MBA right now at Alabama. I'm supposed to graduate with that in December. And then I'm also writing a children's book right now. I've always wanted to do that. And there's an amazing publishing company called Bella Stary. You should actually reach out to them. You need to write a book too, a children's book too. But they focused on childhood cancer support. And so I'm writing a little book about a little girl in a hospital who receives a magical crown. And the more she shares her story, the more she makes a difference, the brighter the crown glows. And it's just inspired by children that I've met along the way, that I included in the book. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm working on planning a fashion show event for children who are fighting cancer and also have survived to fundraise for my nonprofit, but then also have a really special event where these kids can feel like princesses and superheroes as they walk the runway. And then personally, I think just continuing to enjoy time with my family, going to Crimson Tide football games, and just soaking up this next year. I feel like this year has been such a big blessing in my life. I feel like I've learned a lot and grown up a lot, and so I'm excited for what next year holds.
Amazing. I can't wait to see what you do and everything that you're doing now. I know you're putting so much work in, and it's phenomenal to see where you'll go. So I'm blessed to know you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know everybody out there listening is probably taking so many great lessons that they can apply to their lives.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on. I feel like you are so wise beyond your years, and so it's so fun to hear the wisdom that you have and to see all the amazing ways you're going to continue to make an impact in Alabama, especially.
Thank you. Everybody out there listening, be sure to earn the moment in everything you do and every day. You have a good one, Hannah.
Thank you.